of the biggest things that I think I've learned just through the years is how to advocate for myself, which was something I was not very good at doing for the large majority of my young life.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 225. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have an amazing conversation with Hilly. We actually got to meet Hilly at our New Orleans meet and greet a few weeks ago, and she mentions the meet and greet in this episode. So that's what she's talking about, and we did in fact meet her and had a wonderful time talking.
Yeah, it was awesome. We're so glad we got to have that experience, and so glad that Hilly came on to talk to us today about a whole wide range of different relationship dynamics. She's really never been in a monogamous relationship. I think she says her only real traditional, quote unquote, traditional monogamous relationship happened in high school, and it lasted just a couple of months. So this is a fantastic conversation. We're super excited about it. And this is also a first where we've talked about age play, and somebody who is a huge age play advocate. And so we're really excited about that. So thank you, Hilly, for coming on and sharing your story. And we're excited to get it out there.
The other thing that we wanted to mention is that Hilly does refer to her partner by name in this episode, and we did confirm with her that that was A-okay.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure to say that because the conversation she has about it, it seems a little bit in question. We sorted that out. All is gut. Mm-hmm. All is gut. That's for our German fan base out there. And so before we jump in, we have a couple of very quick announcements. Emma, tell them all of the announcements. I'm going to sit here and listen to you and judge you quietly.
I know. Judge me quietly. I always judge you quietly.
Yeah? Are you saying my judgment is not as quiet as yours?
Right.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you very much to all of you who are part of our amazing Patreon community. It would not be the community it is without all of you, so thank you. If you're out there looking for like-minded people, we'd encourage you to check it out. We have an ongoing MeWe chat with lots of fun different subgroups. We have a monthly Q&A and a men's and women's group as well. For more information, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the Patreon button.
Yeah, today is day 2 of our 30-day squat challenge.
Yes.
So we got squats to do today, Emma.
We do. We do. Also, if you're looking for community but are not interested in Patreon, that's okay. We also have virtual meet and greets coming up and other virtual events. So our next virtual meet and greets are March 5th. That's this Saturday, and March 15th. More information on our website. The only requirements to join those are that you are open-minded and respectful. So we'd love to have you come join us. We also have a super fun trivia night coming up this Friday, March 4th. Do you have more to add about the trivia? You're looking at me all like pensive.
Well, I've got a thing I need to interject, but you finish. It's not about this. It's about the squat challenge. So go check. We'd love to have you join for our trivia. This is a trial run, and if it goes well, we are going to do more of these trivia events. So please come join us. Check it out. Let us know what you think. Again, open to anyone. You can sign up on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the community events tab. Yeah, really quick though on the trivia.
So you do have more to say.
I was trying. The trivia is hosted by Sporkle, and so they did like pub trivia and bar trivia for years and years and years. And then when the pandemic hit, they pushed stuff online. And so we've partnered with them. And actually the host that we have is non-monogamous herself. So everybody at the event will be either non-monogamous or open to the idea of it. So we just wanted to make that clear that we're not just winging it, picking questions out of a Trivial Pursuit game. Not
Yes.
that there's anything wrong with that. We're trying it a different way, and we're super excited for it. So we hope to see everybody there this weekend.
Yes, just to be clear, there's not a theme for the trivia this week either. It's just going to be general trivia.
Correct.
And that's Friday night, March 4th.
Correct. We also have some in-person events coming up in California in March and early April. All of those information for those, the events are in San Francisco, San Diego, and we're working on something in LA. All of the information for those events and how you can join them is on our website. Again, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the community events tab and then click on the in-person events.
Yes.
the thing I wanted to say about the squat
challenge.
So we didn't really explain what the hell a squat challenge was. And maybe people are thinking like that's some kinky sex thing. It's not. It's literally one of the channels we have for the Patreon community is a health and fitness channel. And we decided to do a 30-day squat challenge to sort of, I don't know, help anybody and everybody get the kickstart on doing some squats.
Yeah.
So we're doing that. And we got our squats to do today.
Yes, we do.
So that's all the squat challenge is. You know, the other thing we should do is an stdcheck.com challenge.
What would that entail?
That would entail you, the listener, going to our website, clicking on the resources tab, and getting tested for STIs using our favorite service, stdcheck.com. The links there will save you $10 making a 10-panel test, only $130. And it does help support the show financially. This is how Emma and I get tested. We love the service. We've used it for years, and we've gotten amazing feedback from everybody who has used it. So if you're looking for a better way, a different way to get tested, check it out.
And then once you do get tested, go to our website and send us an email and let us know what you thought. That's part of the challenge.
That is. And then our end of the bargain is if you do that and we can use your testimonial, or if you send us a voicemail, we will send you swag. Yes. We have condoms, we have lube, we have all sorts of custom stuff. We'll send it to you as a thank you for letting us know what you thought of stdcheck.com.
Yes. So there you go. STDcheck.com challenge.
Too fast. All right. With that, reach out to us. Let us know what you think. All the ways to do that are on our website under the Contact Us tab. And we're going to go talk to Hilly, and we will see everybody on the other side.
Let's go. Welcome, Hilly, to the show. We're excited to talk to you today, and thank you for making the time tonight. I guess we don't know that much about you. We'd love for you to start by introducing yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. Absolutely. I'm excited to talk to you guys tonight and meet you in person. I've been hearing your voices for several months, but I've not actually gotten to see your faces yet. So my name is Hilly. I'm 35 years old and live in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I'm a 35-year-old polyamorous, submissive, bisexual, age player / little, and I'm active in the BDSM lifestyle and have had polyamorous types of relationships all across the spectrum. I am also an advocate for age play and caregiver little dynamics. I actually have a YouTube channel that it's only in the startup phases. I don't remember exactly how many videos I have up yet, but that's still a project in the works. I also have published a short story, sort of novella, erotic story that has an age play theme to it. And I run a Facebook caregiver littles group. And I also hosted, I helped co-present a class on age play back during the pandemic, during a virtual event. So I think that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Wow, it's impressive, and we want to dig into all of it and hear more about the age play. That's a first for the show, and we're excited to learn more about that and learn more about what that looks like for you. And before we do that, though, would you be able to share roughly what does non-monogamy look like for you today? And then can you take us back to the beginning?
Right. Well, so non-monogamy for me today is a little complicated. I've been in a relationship with my current partner for a little over 2.5 years, and all of that was local until just recently in October when he moved away for work. And our relationship has been polyamorous the entire time. When I first got together with him, I had another person in my life, and he had just started dating someone. That other relationship I was in ended up not working out so well, but we continued our relationship. And I've had one other partner while I've been with him, but he's pretty much been more of a sole focus lately. And now that he is living away, I'm back in the dating game trying to find something substantial here, because I have a feeling that's going to help a hell of a lot in just dealing with the the day-to-day struggles of a long distance relationship. Having somebody that's actually close by is going to help a lot. And his other partner and I have no interaction, and that is entirely by her choice. But that is where I'm at right now. Now, if I were to rewind back to the beginning, it's a
big rewind.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of us, or I dare say most of us in the non-monogamous community at one time or another were brand new and stumbled about and had no idea what the hell we were doing.
Yeah.
I was definitely one of those people. The short version is I don't think I was ever not polyamorous. Aside from one boyfriend that I had in high school for 2 months, my very first boyfriend, I've never had a traditionally monogamous relationship. After that boyfriend, when I first started really dating was in my first year of college, and I lived in Florida, Southern Florida at the time. And I had to paint you a picture. There was a man and a woman who used to date each other. Then they broke up, and then I started dating the guy. And when they broke up, things were not really. It was not a good breakup. It was not like on decent terms. So I start dating the guy. Then he and I don't work out so well. So we break up, and then she asks me out. So I started dating her, and then he comes back and asks to reconcile. So we kind of just decided that they were going to both date me and hate each other, and it was going to be fine.
That seems easy.
That is obviously not the best idea in the world, and obviously that didn't end up working out. He and I split off, and I remained in a relationship with her for about 1.5 years. We tried out like being polyamorous, quote unquote, a couple more times with other gentlemen, but we just didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't have any resources. We were kind of just winging it. We didn't even have any like real words for it. We were just like, this is what we do. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's super interesting, right? That like they broke up, you started dating one, and then you started dating just the idea that you would go like that would pop into your head is like, oh, well, I'll just date both of them. Like, and not having that framework.
And I found it funny because I remember the conversation I had with her when he came to reconcile. And I don't remember exactly how the conversation even really went, except that I think we were both just like, well, I don't know. I mean, he wants to date you, and I don't want you to break up with me. I hate his guts, but like, as long as you don't want to date, dump me, then like, I don't care. It was very unhealthy. But
hey, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, right. You got to start somewhere.
So that was like mistake number one. There will be many, but then so after that, shortly around the same time that she and I's relationship ended, I joined the local kink community down here in New Orleans. Because I had traveled back to New Orleans. So this was right after Katrina, when I had split off with the other guy and stayed with her. We decided to move back down to New Orleans since Katrina had just hit. So now, fast forward, and I'm in New Orleans and newly single, and I joined the kink community. And I had a couple of just occasional casual relationships with various folks. Like the first one that I tried after I joined the kink community was a gentleman who had 2 other submissives, and I was the third. That didn't last very long. And then after that, I actually met a guy in college in my math class. So this relationship started off monogamous. We started dating, and then we both discovered that, that we had similar kinky interests. So we went and attended a TNG munch, which is, a hangout, kind of like a meet and greet for 18 to 35-year-old kinksters. So we go to this munch and we meet a girl, and we decided, let's take her home. Why not? She's adorable. So she started dating us pretty much right away. But then within a month, she got pregnant. So that relationship fell apart and I moved on and had a couple more relationships after that. Where I go from here is a little bit interesting because I had a couple of more casual dynamics. There was one about a year-long relationship, but was super toxic because the woman who was the significant other of the gentleman I was dating was not really into the poly. Like, I think she kind of tolerated it more for just to be with him, I guess.
Was that the woman who ended up pregnant?
No, someone else.
Someone else.
Yeah, this is after that.
Okay, sorry, I missed that.
That's okay. This was the next couple that I'd gotten together with. But that entire relationship was incredibly toxic. There was a lot of animosity and just jealousy and not very healthy emotions going on in that relationship. And after that relationship, I met the person who would eventually become my husband and then my ex-husband. So I met another gentleman at another kink munch, and he was already in a poly-ish kind of relationship. He had a couple of girls who were dating him, and I started dating him. And then, relationships progressed. There were some people who came into the relationship and people who left, and then new people came in. Through the course of that relationship, I think we had about 4 or 5 other females who were part of our relationship. And then I went through a divorce. And from there, I fast forward to here because in a weird way, I think that this is actually arguably the healthiest poly relationship I've ever been in, which is saying something considering there's some not healthy things about the relationship just in general, things that are still working on and, struggles that I've been needing to overcome. But as far as communication and just as a couple doing things in healthy ways and choosing healthy ways to communicate, it's been by far the healthiest poly relationship I have ever been in. So that's kind of where I am today.
That was quite the rundown.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And we're happy to hear that you have maybe worked your way up to the healthiest and learned along the way. And I think we'd love to hear some of what you did learn along the way. I did have one question, and I know Emma's got one. She's chomping at the bit here. But what was the initial draw or pull for you to go and check out the kink scene when you got? I think, did you say that was in Florida still, or was that when you got back to New Orleans?
Yes.
Both. Perfect.
So that's so I didn't get into the kink community or the BDSM community. I grew up a very strange child with very strange interests, and I grew up as a child who was envious of my friends who I had a grade school friend who told me that her older brother went to this other school where they spanked kids and stuff. And my little tiny brain was like, what is this? And had been pretty, I don't know, I guess interested in it ever since. In the same way that I had been poly pretty much my whole life, I've been essentially kind of kinky my whole life, just didn't have a word for it or a name for it. And then, of course, the wonderful, glorious internet was invented. And then I was able to finally start learning things. And my kink journey started on a website called Gaia Online. It was an online role-playing site that worked very similarly to a message board sort of way. And it was an online role-playing. So I started role-playing these roles, some of these kink roles that I'd had in my head. And then somebody that I met on there mentioned a website called collarme.com, and another person mentioned Yahoo chat rooms way back in the day. And with collarme.com and Yahoo chat rooms, I kind of learned more and talked to more people. And then I met it was somebody I think on the message board who mentioned local groups and local clubs. And that's how I got curious and looked up my own local club and found New Orleans local scene. And it was pretty much, it just kept going from there, because then it was just all of a sudden I had this giant group of people that felt the exact same way I felt and had all the same weird, strange indulgences and likes and dislikes and such.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you for explaining that. And there will be links to those sites in the show notes other than probably Yahoo chat rooms, because I don't think
they don't exist anymore.
I don't think they exist anymore.
There'll be links to any of those that exist.
Yeah, you can go download AOL
does.
Instant Messenger.
Well, I mean, Color Me sort of exists, but it's not called that anymore. It's called like Color Space. But I would stay away from that if I were you. Would stick with FetLife and some of the other healthy stuff. ColorMe.com was basically just a cesspool. It was not a good. It was
not include links for that.
Links
not in the show notes, except for FetLife.
Except for FetLife. Yeah, just add FetLife, and I can give you guys whatever else you'd like if I have any.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Perfect.
I want to talk a little bit more about the kink scene, but I had a question first, because as you're going through your story, something stuck out to me in the fact that you seem to have found yourself, I guess, in relationships with couples or couple dynamics quite frequently. Even when you said when you were with your ex-husband, you had other women join, and so like then it was more of a triad. And so how do you find yourself more drawn to triads, or is that just how things have kind of just developed over time?
Honestly, I couldn't even really say for sure. I know that initially triad type dynamics and just like polycule dynamics have appealed to me. And I do really, really like the idea of that sort of very family sort of feel to things. The sisterly, brotherly kind of family dynamic. So I think I am naturally drawn to those more so than like solo poly, even though that's kind of where I'm at now. But I don't know. I think I started out with those. I don't know if I was drawn to them, or they just kind of naturally developed that way.
Yeah.
Because the gentleman that I was with the other girl who got pregnant, that started out with just me and him, and then we took her home. So.
Right. Yeah. One quick question on that, just because I imagine there's other people that are going to send us hate mail if I don't ask this question. Did the guy that you were with, and was he the father of the child? And like, that's why the dynamic kind of broke up?
Yes.
Okay. You don't need to go into detail. I just wondered if that was what happened there. If you want to go into detail, feel free, but you don't need to.
It's water under the bridge. That was back in 2008.
It's been a few years.
Yeah, I've been around the block a time or two.
Perfect. Well, thank you for the clarification. And so where along this journey did the age play start to like poke its head up and become something that you were interested in?
Much like everything else, it kind of naturally developed.
Mm-hmm.
I was about 20 years old when I first joined the kink scene, and that originally started in Florida and then continued on in New Orleans when I moved back home. But, as I was young and immature and very, just had a sort of bratty attitude. So it was already kind of the youngin' in the group. And as the years went by, I sort of just discovered that was really honestly just a part of my core personality, that I liked to be the cute, bubbly, adorable one. And I never outgrew that whole love of being called adorable. And I can't even really pinpoint exactly when I finally discovered age play specifically. I think I must have just discovered it during my time going to the parties at the local dungeons, and it must have just been mentioned somewhere along the way, and it just stuck. Plus, I never grew out of my love of stuffed animals and all things pink and sparkly and beautiful and Disney movies, and it was natural. It was a natural next place to be for me.
Sure.
I guess.
And what is it like on a like day-to-day basis, like what does it look like with your partner or in the scene? Like what does that physically look like for you?
Well, my partner is my sir as well as my daddy, and he and we developed this during the pandemic, and then its progression was kind of natural once he moved away because it worked so well. We had started implementing what I like to call thrice daily check-ins, where he would check in on me 3 times a day, and he would check on me and ask things about, that you would like ask your child about taking care of themselves. So, have you eaten? Have you taken your meds? How are you feeling? Where's your mood? For me, he asks also where my pain level is because of the multitude of pain conditions that I suffer from. And we have a routine set out where he'll set tasks for me for the day, and he'll set 4 tasks. If I get 1 of them done, I avoid punishment. If I get 2 of them done, I get praise. If I get 3 of them done, I get a gold star. And if I get 4 done, then I get some kind of special treat. We've talked about little small treats that he can give me as extra rewards. Like, we have talked about him reading my little a bedtime story. Sometimes he'll buy me a small stuffy or something like that. And that's been a really great way for us to continue to connect since he has moved away, because it's given me and us that extra ability to connect, even though we're not able to reach each other physically.
Yeah.
And it's given my little a chance, because my little has colored pictures for him and sent them in the mail via snail mail. And he has put them on the refrigerator. So that's been the sort of just day-to-day sort of sweet, cute kind of dynamic that's sort of developed between us, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you. And you've mentioned in there that you have a little as well. Can you explain what that means? And sorry to ask for like all of these. It's just, I think there's probably a lot of people listening who maybe don't fully understand the dynamic, including your hosts.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
So a little or an age player is what I refer to what people in the age play and CGL community refer to as an age player, someone who reverts to a younger age. So CGL, by the way, is short for caregiver little dynamics. And a little is essentially someone who mentally reverts to a younger age or a younger mindset. So there's littles, and then there's middles, and there's bigs. Littles tend to fall into the younger category. So let me actually start from the ground up, from like ages like 0 to 2. That's where you're going to have your ABDLs, your adult babies, diaper lovers. And then ages between like 3 to around 10-ish are littles. And then middles are your teenage age group. So they revert to somewhere closer to, between 11 and 17. And the way that age play represents really is a personal, it's exhibited differently depending on the person. But essentially, what most littles will probably say they really enjoy most about being an age player, being a little, is reverting to a place in their head where the stresses of the world do not exist, because they go into what is referred to as little space. And when they revert to little space, their adult worries aren't in their mind. So all of the stresses of having to go to work and paying bills and dealing with household duties and whatever, none of that's in their present mind. And they can just go to a place that's simpler and more innocent and carefree and safe. So they can, throw off their work clothes and throw in a onesie and grab a stuffed animal and watch Disney movies, and the world doesn't have to exist anymore for a little while. And then as far as like I've seen a lot of different personality dynamics. I've seen teenage littles who are much brattier, although brats come in all shapes and sizes. So, but yeah, it's just it's a place of freedom and safety and an escape from external stressors.
Yeah.
Right. So when you refer to your little, that's just that's you when you go to that place. That's what you're referencing.
Yes. My little side. The little side of me actually even goes by a different name than myself. And my partner and I will refer to each of like my grown up self and my little side separately. My little's name is Allie, and my partner will talk to me, and then he'll actually address Allie, and we go back and forth. It's very cute, and it's something that's definitely enhanced our relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just a thank you, a lot of gratitude for like sharing and explaining that. Like it's really interesting, and I appreciate it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, through your background and everything you've mentioned now that you're in the healthiest relationship that you have been in. And I would love if you could talk a little bit about the growth that you've seen in yourself over the last, I guess it's a long time, 15 to 20 years or so, as you've gotten older and had all these experiences. And how have you seen yourself grow and change?
I mean, for starters, one of the biggest things that I think I've learned just through the years is how to advocate for myself. Which was something I was not very good at doing for the large majority of my young life. I had always been a bit of a people pleaser and submissive as well. So I've always taken sort of the more submissive attitude in situations, which didn't leave me with a whole lot of tools on how to advocate for myself when I wasn't happy. And that's definitely something that I've learned a lot about ever since my divorce, because in that relationship, I really truly lost my voice, and lost myself. So when I managed to get out of that relationship, I started on a journey of, really, really turning inward and doing a lot of reflection of who I was and what I wanted out of my life. Then I met Art. I'm just going to go on from here on forward and just use his name because I'm almost positive he doesn't have a problem with it. Actually, I am positive. He's not going to mind. But it's just easier than referring to him as my partner.
That's fine.
So, I met Art on, OkCupid about 2.5 years ago. And during the course of my relationship with him, that's been, honestly, I can honestly say has been some of the most real, genuine growth that I've gone through, because up until my relationship with him, I hadn't realized how much I was settling, just as far as on what I consider to be like basic relationship standards. And we had this funny moment that kept happening when we first got together. Like, we'd have a sit-down conversation after what I would consider to be some kind of conflict that would occur. And after we were done talking, I would thank him for being so patient and for giving me the time for us to get through this. And he kept saying, "Babe, you've got to stop thanking me for giving you the bare minimum a relationship should be giving you." And that blew my mind wide open. And he kept saying that phrase several more times. He's just like, you're thanking me for giving you the bare minimum. And it was kind of a turning point, I think, for me, because then I suddenly realized that I had been settling so much in relationships and that I didn't have to settle anymore. And that was an eye opener. Mm-hmm. So now when he and I have had conflicts, we actually take time. So, I mean, I've learned a couple of big key points as far as myself and just in general conflict resolution, I've learned the power of stepping away and allowing some cool down time. I tend to be someone who's a little bit more anxiously attached, while he's a little bit more avoidant, which we've laughed about because I'll listen to podcasts and then I'll hear a really great one and I'll send it to him in a link and be like, you gotta listen to this. You gotta listen to this. Another great one. I've sent him links to a couple of you guys' podcasts. I've also sent him some links to a couple of other ones. I don't know if name dropping is appropriate here.
Yeah,
so,
go for it.
Well, I've sent him a bunch from the polyamory podcast because we have an ongoing joke that the podcasts are all secretly spying on me, because every time we have a discussion or a conflict or like anything, the next day that podcast drops an episode on that very topic. This happened today. We were talking yesterday about the topic of resentment, and that I had been struggling with feelings of resentment towards his other partner due to her not wanting to have anything to do with me. And then today, Multi-Emery Podcast drops resentment episode, and I'm like, so we have an ongoing joke now where I send him a message and I'm like, on today's episode of which podcast is spying on me, and send him links, and he laughs. He thinks it's great, but I'll share these podcasts with him, and he'll listen to them, and then he'll come back and be like, wow, a lot of what that stuff, like he would talk about, like that was really, really insightful. It sort of helped both of us grow, and especially since, like I said, since he's moved away. So now he'll listen to the podcast on his drives, to and from work, and then tell me about it when he gets home.
Yeah.
And both of us have learned things from it. And it's really helped us give perspective. But then the other things that I've learned from just having a healthy conflict, which is basically the best way I can put it, is having healthy conflicts with him, and learning that after a portion of time spent away, that we would come back and it's possible to have a safe conversation, like just a sit down conversation with this person. And it doesn't have to be terrifying. And there doesn't have to be any yelling or sniping or, being petty. He taught me how it felt to have my voice and to be given that space and to be heard. And, he goes out of his way to make sure that I feel heard. And he's taught me times when either of us haven't been as great about listening as we should. So yeah, it's really blown my mind, honestly.
Yeah. And I think too, like I can see where there would be, I don't know if opportunity is the right word, but there would be opportunity for potentially a person who's taken the dominant role or the big, to take advantage of the fact that they have somebody who is submissive to them and that is playing down to a different age, where you can sort of be like, no, you do this because I say so. You almost become like, I can see there being an opportunity to take advantage of that submissive and dominant role.
Yeah, totally.
And that being where you lose your voice, because you're like, yes. Oh, well, I'm submissive. It's supposed to be like this.
That's exactly how I ended up with the monster that was my ex-husband, because unfortunately, a lot of predators do prey on submissives and littles, and it's a dangerous place. It's part of why I'd kind of devoted myself to becoming a bit of an advocate for age players and healthy age play, because it is such a vulnerable side of the kink community. And, being submissive in general, there are predators out there, and way too many opportunities that people can use. And when I was with my ex-husband, that's almost exactly the mindset I ended up in, was, oh, I'm submissive, so I'm supposed to just take this. And I was also still pretty new to the lifestyle when I got with him, despite the fact that I'd actually kind of been around the block a time or two by the time I got with him. I was still arguably pretty naive and innocent and inexperienced. So I ended up under his clutches, and it was easy for him to convince me of things that weren't accurate in the lifestyle, and to convince me that there were things expected of me that shouldn't be expected, that are never expected without consent.
Sure.
I didn't even realize I didn't quite understand exactly what consent meant until I left him. So yeah, it's a lifestyle and a lifestyle choice that is rife with opportunities for abuse and neglect and so many other things that I want to help support H players, but I also want to help support bigs, because there are people who are getting abused on both sides of the spectrum. As with anything, it's not on one side.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all one-sided. There, are submissives who have abused dominance and manipulated dominance. There have been abusive littles. It's all over the place. But the dream I kind of have is the more community that we continue to create, the more that we bring people together and give people spaces to talk, to ask questions, to share themselves, and to express who they are and their whole self. The more I feel like we build a giant community of supporters. We build an army to stand around any person who happens to be in a vulnerable place. And I feel like it helps. I think it's going to help us as a community lift each other up. That's why I have my CGL Age Play Facebook group, because I want to end the stigma on both sides. One thing that people have not understood is that responsible, healthy bigs get victimized by judging outsiders, even inside our kink lifestyle. They're marginalized even inside the BDSM spectrum, because there are people who do not understand age play who will accuse a big or accuse a caregiver of being a pedophile or promoting pedophilia. There have been littles who have been accused of being pedophile sympathizers, and that we're essentially creating content to breed pedophiles. It's rife with a lot of toxicity, and that's something that I want to do whatever I can do to help end, to help change, to help end the stigma. Essentially, the podcast that I'm about to start is going to be a BDSM podcast, but we're going to have a bit of so it's going to be a BDSM podcast with a focus towards more niche kinks like age play and others, to offer, again, more education, more space, and more opportunities for understanding in that category. I guess I've just sort of accidentally fallen into the role of my mission is to create an army of littles that support each other.
Yeah, no, and it's super important, right? Like you said, the community,
right?
Like being able to reach out to somebody who's also gone through this and to say, like, is what's happening like okay? And exactly. to be able to hear, like, no, it's not. Like, I went through that. It's not okay.
I've seen that a lot already in my age play group on Facebook, where someone will be experiencing something, and so they'll talk about it. They'll post about it in the group and ask, is this right? Is this okay? And while, I mean, that can sometimes like open up a whole bunch of people just like jumping down the throats and going, no, that's terrible, and he should not do that, and how dare they? We have moderators to help with that, because that's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for an army of littles to jump down the throat of whatever caregiver that little has, we're looking to start dialogue. So if it starts, I mean, if when the conversation happens, it seems safe and legitimate, we'll for the most part leave it alone. But if it starts to seem like the people who are posting are just ganging up on this unknown caregiver without really giving it much thought, we tend to jump and nip that on the bud. I have 7 moderators, I believe, and bless their hearts, because they have been keeping that group alive for me as my conditions have worsened, making it a lot harder to continue to do maintenance on the group, because I kind of stretched myself a little bit thin.
We tend to do that, don't we?
Yeah.
Like most people do, I feel like. It's easy.
I mean, Facebook group, YouTube channel, I'm starting a podcast, I wrote a book. I tried doing a boot blacking side business for a little while, but that didn't really take any air. Sorry, that's...
And these are
totally
all like hobbies, right? These are all on the side.
Yeah, I'm not really getting paid for any of them. I even had
Exactly.
I had an OnlyFans for a little. I still have an OnlyFans, but I throw like a picture up on there like once every couple of months at this point. I don't really even use it anymore. It's just a lot. And at one point, it took my therapist. Well, we were talking at a session, and I was being particularly hard on myself, and I was venting about how I hadn't made a video in so long, and I was really mad at myself. And she was like, "Hilly," and just started listing off all of the projects that I've been doing and going, "When are you going to give yourself a break? There's only so much Hilly to go around." And I was like, "Okay, called out. Thanks."
Yeah. Sometimes we need that perspective.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And she's great. I love my therapist, because I learned that this therapist was definitely for me the first time I accidentally let a curse slip out, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she goes, "Oh shit, shut up. I don't got a problem with that." And I was like, "Oh, we're gonna get along great."
There you go.
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess on that note, you shared that you. I guess it sounds like you have a wonderful therapist. That's and you're a proponent for therapy, which we are too. It's really important.
I honestly personally believe I don't think there is a person out there who couldn't benefit from therapy, and that is something that my sir and I share a belief in. Everyone needs therapy. I don't care who you are.
Yes. Well, because I think, our mental health in society is often neglected, and it's not oftentimes not as prioritized as physical health.
Well, and unfortunately in this particular current economy, it's sort of a luxury.
Yeah.
It sucks, but it is.
It is. Yes.
Without a doubt. Yeah. It's not always affordable or even close to affordable for many people. So yeah, it's a really hard thing. So, but powerful if you can make it happen.
Yeah. And on that note, I just wanted to, if you're comfortable talking about it, you had mentioned to us previously that you navigate neurodivergence and other, and other
struggles.
Yes. And other struggles that I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about if you'd like, and how those impact your relationships.
So for starters, I am neurodivergent. I have ADHD, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and suffer from trauma from various emotional abuses throughout the course of my life. And on top of that, I've also lived with chronic pain. It would probably take too long to list all of them. There's a lot. But the ones that affect me primarily are fibromyalgia, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or EDS for short, as well as ulnar neuropathy in both of my upper extremities, and various joint issues that are associated with the EDS and the fibromyalgia, but are also further complicated by slowly advancing scoliosis. And yeah, like I said, there's a lot more. I am on so many medications that I need an entire pill bottle organizer thing. That my boyfriend made a joke. He said when he first saw me with the pill organizer, he thought that like pill organizers were sort of like, well, I can't even remember the word he used. I think he just said that they were like bougie or something. I don't even remember what it was he said. But then he was like, but then I looked at it and saw exactly how many pills you take, and I was like, okay, yeah, never mind. She needs one.
Sometimes they're very practical and necessary.
Yeah. But you know, the neurodivergence started much younger. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I think I was like 7, and that's been a struggle throughout my life, and added to anxiety and depression and then PTSD. It definitely caused a lot of social issues and social awkwardness, and it took me years and years and years to really figure out how to just relate to people and how to behave socially. I was never diagnosed with Asperger's, but it was suspected that I might, because I was just a little different. Mm-hmm. And that kind of caused me to be a little bit of an outcast. And I think I've only really started to come into my own since my divorce. Again, that was really the turning point for me, because before that I really felt like I just always felt socially awkward. And then I was empowered by my divorce and the sort of act of freeing myself from that bind. And then I went to a kink convention in 2019 before, you know, everything happened. Mm-hmm. And that was when I really, really finally started to find myself, when I realized that I had rediscovered that outgoing, bubbly person that just loves people and wants to be everybody's best friend. And that really just helped to rebuild my confidence. And I've just kind of been growing with that since then. And then the pain conditions, honestly, they started very gradually. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia back in 2014, I think. But then it wasn't until 2018 that I started to really notice a lot more issues starting to crop up. And they just got worse and worse, and then much worse once the pandemic hit. And that's been a struggle. It's been a battle, but it's been something that has also given my relationship with art a chance to grow. Because in the beginning of our relationship, I remember we were at a kink party during one of our dates, and I'm sitting at a table with him, and he says to me, in the future, when I ask how you're doing, I don't want you to tell me you're fine. I don't want you to give me this, you know, bland answer, I'm okay, or I'm not feeling great. I want you to tell me exactly how you're feeling. So, and I was like, do you know what you're asking right now? Because that's a lot. You want the nitty gritty. You want me to tell you that, like, it feels like there are needles jabbing me in my arms, and that, like, I feel like my back has been snapped into, like, I went into more details than that, but he was like, yes, that is what I want. I want you to tell me how you were doing, exactly how you were doing. And that was the turning point for me, for our relationship. When he opened up the doors for a chance to trust him, to want that. So now, even though he's far away, he'll check in and ask how I'm doing, and I can tell him I'm not doing great or I'm doing okay, but, you know, I'll tell him when it's a high pain day or when it's not a high pain day, or when my emotions are frayed or something's going on. Plus, one of the things that we developed as a part of our long distance relationship is I write to him. Well, we write to each other. snail mail style. And those are really fun. Those are fun opportunities for me to share with him how things are going in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that and for the vulnerability. Like, I know some of that's definitely hard to talk about. And so we really appreciate your openness and honesty with that. And I think like to maybe kind of like put a bow on it for us to like, we've talked about like some struggles you've had, some challenges you've overcome, both physically and just in your journey. Like, what are some of like, I mean, you obviously do this for a reason, right? So like, what are some of like the things that you take away from this that just fill you up and make it something that
the beautiful
the beautiful part about doing this for you? Like, what is it for you that like you've taken away over the years that really fills you up?
It's really those little moments. When Art and I share a laugh about something, when he teases me, and even from all the way across the continent, he knows that I'm making this little squinched up face that I give him whenever he's picking on me. It's the little opportunities to really bond with people and get close to people on a level that I don't think I otherwise would have gotten. And it's given me a chance to meet some incredible people and get to know littles and bigs and get to know people from all different walks of life who all came to these various lifestyles in their own unique ways. And just having people that have come into my life that have enriched my life. There's my extended family, which I refer to as my pack, and they're an extended group of beloved people who are just good-hearted, emotionally wonderful human beings who I couldn't be prouder to call family if I actually shared their blood. It's been the connections and the close relationships and the bonds and the friendships and the community camaraderie and the feeling of togetherness, and going from being an socially awkward kid who didn't really know how to make friends or interact to feeling like I found my family in kink, and I found my family in the polyamorous communities, and all of that combined, which surprisingly, kink and BDSM BDSM and polyamory tend to merge with each other a lot. And it's just fun. It's fun meeting people and making connections and creating so many different bonds with so many different people that are not a single one is unique. I'm sorry. Each one is unique.
Right? We know what you meant.
All the same. Everybody is exactly the same.
None of us are unique. Okay, I'm sorry. But even just the members of my pack are, all love each other and are such unique people, and not a single one of them really has all that in common as far as their background or where they came from or brought them into the kink world. But we've all become a family. And I consider what I refer to as my home dungeon, which is the dungeon that I frequent most often, is actually the dungeon in Baton Rouge, which I refer to as home. It's when I finally went back to the dungeon after my divorce. I remember the very first party I went to, and I remember stepping through the doors, and I hadn't been there in like 8 or 9 years or something. And I stepped through those doors, and immediately felt like I was home. It's been a real family and a real special place to have a lot of special connections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that feeling probably tells you you're in the right place.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've never felt more myself than when I'm around my kink folk. I've never felt more like I can be myself. It's around my kink folk. Like when I went to the convention in 2019, I spent the majority of that time wearing kitten ears and running around in PJs with a stuffy, and everybody knew the stuffy's name by the end of the kink convention because at the very beginning of it, he got a hole where it was this little. So for those of you who can't see on the camera, but he's a brown teddy bear, and I was on the plane and I noticed that his tail was gone, and there was a hole in its place. And there was an app that we used to connect with one another. Those of us who were going to the kink convention, there was an app we were able to connect with each other on before we got to the convention. So I posted a picture of his butt with the hole and was like, does anybody have some sewing needle and some thread? I need help. Mr. Hugglesworth's butt is in need of help. So I get to the convention and they see me with this little brown bear, like, oh, you're the girl with the bear with the butt. So I was just, yeah, that was me. And it instantly made me feel comfortable, and I was like, I can run around in PJs with a stuffy with these people and they just think I'm adorable. I lost count of how many times I was called adorable that weekend. And it was just like, this is where you can be completely and totally yourself. Utterly and completely and unapologetically yourself, and they adore you.
Yeah.
And that was the turning point for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is, I think, a wonderful place to wrap up. I know we could talk to you for hours.
I'm gonna ruin your wrap up here. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
I just have one question. I'm sorry. I was, as you were talking, I was thinking of something that I was supposed to ask earlier and I missed it, and I apologize. I apologize, Emma.
It's okay. Go for it.
You talked about, you didn't use the word red flags, but the dynamic of littles and bigs and sort of the prey and being victimized. What are, like, having gone through that yourself, and I know we're kind of like going back to a hard topic and I apologize, but having gone through that yourself, can you share just a couple, like, high level, like, red flags or things that you look for now when you're out on OkCupid or FetLife to, like, say, like, nope, not even going to respond to this, not even going to click on this person's profile? Because I imagine there's, like, I would say the ultimate resource is, like, find yourself into the Facebook group and the different support groups. But for somebody who's, like, struggling and in need, that maybe you could throw one or two things out there that, like, hey, here's some stuff to look for, just high level. That would be really helpful.
And absolutely. So some of these might be some of these might be personal, so they might be, slightly biased. But for me as a little, some red flags that I have that instantly set off my, like, predator alert are people who start conversations with me calling me pet names. If they start off conversations, on FetLife or on whatever, and started off by, like, calling me little one or baby girl or pet names like that, like, right off the bat, instant creep vibe.
Well, and also sort of a consent violation, right? Like, to assume that they can call you something that you've not agreed to with them.
Exactly. Especially because those pet names are pretty sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And vulnerable.
But also some of them are only things Daddy gets to call me. So, other red flags I would say would be, let me see. I mean, it's tough when it comes to specifically caregiver little styles. Anything that feels a little too rushed. Anything that feels too much like they want to go to the next level too quickly. Like they want to go from chatting on OkCupid to meeting in person too fast. Or they want your cell phone number too fast. Or if they instantly want, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, when you say too fast, like, it's almost like if you're not comfortable giving that information or meeting something, that's the signal of like, that's too fast.
Yes.
That feels like too
it could
fast.
be 3 months.
Whatever feels too fast for you. And it might not even necessarily be that person is a predator, but if it's too fast for you and you express that and they dismiss that feeling or try to convince you, try to coerce you into setting aside your concerns, then I would steer clear. I would also steer clear of anyone who jumps straight into sexual territory, especially with littles. Although there are littles out there, I happen to be one of them, that delve into what is otherwise referred to as dark age play, involving age players that delve into sexual behavior. Regardless of the case, it's never appropriate to start out that way, especially because for a lot of littles, they're completely non-sexual, and that's a safe space that is outside of the sexual realm for them. And you could be setting off serious triggers. Yeah. So anyone who's like, oh, baby, I bet you look so cute in your onesie, sucking your, don't, steer clear, keep going. And anyone who doesn't encourage you to do your own research, who wants to say, oh, well, I've been around longer than such and such years, and you don't need to read all those books. I can tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Anyone who discourages you educating yourself, who discourages your mental health and self-care, and who doesn't at least seem to show an interest in your safety and comfort.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. And I think just one thing that you said that I wanted to maybe highlight was when somebody says something or does something that's too rushed, like that is sort of for me, that's sort of like hey, the radar is going off, but that's not necessarily a disqualification, right? If you're like, hey, I understand you want to jump to getting my phone number, but like that doesn't make me comfortable right now. And if they're like, hey, totally cool, and they back off, that's a totally different thing than like, oh, well, what, you don't trust me? Like, and they start to push and push.
Exactly.
And push.
And that's the big difference. It's not if you say, well, I know you want to go on a date, but I'm really not ready to meet you in person yet. I just want to get to know you a little bit more online before I jump that far. If they back off, then that's the positive of a red flag. That's a green flag right there.
Yep.
That's a good sign. Anytime that they respond to your boundaries by respecting them.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
That was a good question to interrupt me, or not to interrupt me, but to end on instead of
no, I know. Well,
up.
you were. It was perfect. We actually got an email a couple of weeks ago that said like, hey, somebody mentioned red flags, and you didn't ask what any of the red flags were, and so I was listening, and I was like, we need to ask what those red flags are. So we listened to your feedback. Send us an email. All right. Wrap it up, Emma. I'll stop talking.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for all of the vulnerable conversation and just for being so open with us. It's really appreciated. And I wanted to give you the opportunity as well to talk about anything else that you would want to get out there.
Well, to all of the New Orleans folk out there, you should totally come to this meet and greet happening in a month because I'm excited about it. And actually, a lot of my kink friends, as well as just kink adjacent friends, are actually the ones that I know are helping organize it because I got an invite.
And yes, to echo that.
and to be clear, it may have already happened by the time this airs.
It may have.
But it was awesome, we're assuming. and we're so glad you made it.
And we'll have another one someday.
We're like talking to the future.
Right?
Yep. And the past at the same time.
But no, I think the only thing left that I would want to share is that I would encourage anyone who is curious and wants to explore not to be afraid to do so. And I'll give you guys to put in your show notes the links to to my YouTube channel and Facebook group. Fair warning, the Facebook group is not public, it's private, so you have to go through the intro questions Q&A, and our mods, my moderators and I will go through those. So if you try to send us an invite to the group and the questions aren't answered, you get rejected. So maybe answer the questions. But
that's part of keeping it a safe community. So I think that's spot on.
That's how we have weeded out the majority of the creepers. And so far, we've only had one creeper in the group, and I think the group is like almost 2 years old at this point.
Wow.
But yeah, don't be afraid to do your research and start exploring, because there's a lot out there, and don't miss out.
Yeah.
Live your life.
Love it.
Love it. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. And links, as we said multiple times, will be in the show notes, except for the things that no longer exist or we should not be promoting. Then they will not be in the show notes, but everything else will be. And thank you again, Hilly. It was just an amazing conversation with you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Well, have a wonderful night, and we'll see you in a month / saw you a month ago. So
whenever this airs.
Enjoy
in
your
the
evening.
future splash pass. Thank you,
Right.
you guys do.
And we're back.
We are back.
You were going to say something.
I did all my squats during that episode.
It was long enough to do 100 squats.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hilly, for coming on our show and for all of the amazing conversation and for meeting us, coming out to the meet and greet and meeting us in person a few weeks ago as well. We're so grateful, and thank you.
Yes. Thank you for me as well. We're excited to get the story out there, and we had a blast talking to you.
Just a quick reminder to go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Over there, you will find information on joining our Patreon community, information on the virtual meet and greets, our upcoming trivia night, as well as in-person events, and information on our favorite resources, including stdcheck.com.
Man, that's a pretty cool website, Emma.
There's so much information.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you for checking out our website and all of the events. We hope to see you at some of them. We've got another interview next week.
Next week, we have Kate and Liam. They're the hosts of the Monogamous Marriage podcast, and they came on our show
Way back in the
beginning.
Way back. The Wayback Machine. I'm trying to figure out what episode. Episode 200. Nope. I made that part up. Chop off a 0. Episode 20.
Episode 20. I was like, way back is not 200. We're in the 200s right now.
And if you're going to want to go back and listen to that, which I think you probably should, you don't have to. You will notice that the name on that episode is Kate and Mike instead of Kate and Liam. Liam will talk about why the name change happened in our episode. It's actually not that exciting of a story, but just be aware that when you go back to find episode 200,
No!
episode 20. I was sitting here thinking, don't say 200, and that's what I said. When you go back to find episode 20, you will see a different name on it. Highly recommend listening and highly recommend checking out their podcast and their blog until you get to listen to them on our episode next week.
And we will see you next week with that episode, right?
Not with episode 20, with episode 226.
Yes. Now you've officially confused everyone.
And now, well, there's nobody listening at this point. This one's just for us, Emma.
Okay. Are we done?
We've been done for a while.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.